It's a Friday edition of Orange and Blue Today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. We did offensive bye-week report card grades. It's time to do the defense, Mace. And I think the defense certainly leading the way. Not necessarily a surprise, but certainly the additions that we'll go over and just the overall performance has been fantastic for that side of the ball this year.
Yeah, I think better than could have reasonably been expected going in. I mean, you were cautiously optimistic about some of the changes that happened. Not so much personnel, but in points of emphasis. Remember chatting with Zach Allen back in June, and Allen talking about how much more simple the defense had become, that it was a focus on attack and taking a lot of the kind of the split second reaction off of it and just kind of letting guys fly around, and how it suited this defense much better. And that's proven to be the case. But personnel wise, they had to be resourceful. They had to target specific needs to fill rather than just necessarily going after the best player at the top of the free agent market. And I think they actually, because they were boxed in by some cap constraints, they made some better choices.
Yeah, they did make some better choices. And if we go back to the offseason, Mace, before we jump into the defensive line grade, the A word was used a lot when describing this defense: aggressive. We're going to be aggressive this year. We're going to be aggressive this year. We're going to be aggressive this year. Well, I do believe that's a big old check mark on that one.
Yeah, and that's why we're sitting here talking about this defense having 5 players with 5 sacks already this season, led by Nik Bonitto with 11, but going all the way down to 3 guys with 5 sacks, including Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, and Jonah Ellis. It's been aggressive and attack-minded, and it's pretty easy to get guys to buy into that, but then actually getting them to execute it at that level, that's been something really exciting to see. And it's been as big a reason as Bo Nix as to why this team is sitting here in playoff position today.
Yeah, and we're a couple of minutes in. We've mentioned Zach Allen's name twice, so let's just get there on the defensive line grades, because A+ and A. Now, Zach Allen is the reason I give this team an A+, but also, John Franklin Myers and what he's done to create interior pressure and also stuff the run. Something that when you got Franklin Myers via trade, it was like, oh, he's the guy that gets pressure and we work on him against the run. No, he's been able to do that well as well. And then Malcolm Roach too. So A+ for me, A for you. Pretty close, Mace, but why not that extra little plus there?
Well, sometimes you're looking at the depth of the unit, and even though it is a deeper unit than it was last year, certainly bringing in Franklin Myers and Roach, they've been difference makers. And Roach, you mentioned Franklin Myers brought in for pass rush, Roach brought in and really to stuff the run, but Franklin Myers has been plus against the run, and Roach has been plus in pass rush as well. So they've found new tools in their chest, so to speak. I gave it an A rather than A+, mainly because I think the last couple of games, you lost, of course, Zach Allen in the Raiders game when he was walking around the sideline in a walking boot. And that was a game where the defensive line without Allen did not look nearly as effective, especially against the run. The Raiders having some success running up the middle. And then against the Browns, some moments and some flashes, but still a lot of moments where the Browns gashed the Broncos, and not just in the secondary, but there were some gashes up from time to time up front as well. So it basically probably was an A+ that became an A the last couple of weeks, because I'd say as good as the defensive line has been, they don't go into the bye with a huge amount of momentum as a group, just as that position group, in my opinion.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. And again, we're right there. So a good old passing grade, top of the mark for both of us there.
It's more than passing. It's like, why did I mean, why do you give it the A plus rather than the A? Of course, so of course, I guess I have that coming because my on one grade on my daughter's report card was like a B minus. I'm like, what's the deal with the B minus here? The rest of it was great.
It's still a B. It's still a B.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, our edge grades, they're right on the money because the edge is right on the money. As you mentioned, an A plus for the edge rushers. It's Nik Bonitto. It's Jonathan Cooper. Really love what I've seen from Jonah Ellis and his growth in coverage as well. Hell, Nik Bonitto as a run defender, and Coop's always been that guy to set the edge against the run. But A plus is here is probably the easiest grade we had to dish out on this side of the ball, Mace.
Yeah, it's exceeded expectations. I mean, we went into the season talking about, is this an area you're going to be targeting in the first round of next year's draft? What's going on contractually? Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning. Is Nik Bonitto going to become a plus player against the run and thus become a complete edge who can play every down? That question has been answered brilliantly by Nik Bonitto to the point where he not only looks like a complete edge, but he looks like one of the best and most well-rounded edge rushers in football. And he plays opposite Jonathan Cooper, who himself is having a terrific season, and he got the contract extension. But then you also mentioned Jonah Ellis. I mean, he's been effective when called on. He's one of those 5-sack guys on the defense. Even though he's only playing in a rotational role and has yet to start, he's been effective. And then even Andrea Tillman has shown some flashes as well. Of course, he had those 2 sacks of Baker Mayfield down in Tampa back in September. I mean, it's a unit that has quality at the top, has depth, and now the biggest question on this unit, Cease, is at what point do you back up the truck and pay Nik Bonitto, back up the Brinks truck? Because is that something you work on here in the off season in much the same way you worked on Quinn Miners on the offensive side as soon as you possibly could? Because he's legitimately contending for Defensive Player of the Year. Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, I don't think anybody could have seen that level coming from Nik Bonitto. It's been outstanding, and I think it's like Miners. You're going to get in a training camp, and before the start of the regular season, Nik Bonitto would be highly paid. He's a core player. We've talked about it on the show just this week, Mace. We're finding out who the core guys are. I mean, my God, you can't lose Nik Bonitto. What a development that young man has done. Talk about being a blind dog to our friend Parker Gabriel when he's like, I was a rookie. I was a blind dog. We saw it, yeah. And the growth in 3 years has been tremendous.
That's why you don't write off draft picks when they struggle as rookies.
That's a tough position too.
Yeah,
especially as an analyst of college football to draft. Like it's a different game. College is just a different game. You can out athlete guys in college. You can't do that in the pros.
It's not only a tough position. Look when he was taken at the end of the second round, and edge rusher is right there behind quarterback in terms of typically if you're going to get those guys, you've got to get them early. So you're talking about when you pick Nik Bonitto, an incomplete package when the Broncos selected him, who required some development. And you had to be patient in retrospect. But even then, I mean, the Broncos were patient, but if they saw Nik Bonitto's breakout coming, he wouldn't have been on the bench as a rotational guy when the season began. I mean, Baron Browning was your starter at the edge for the first 2 games of the season before he landed on injured reserve. So don't think for a moment the Broncos completely saw this Nik Bonitto explosion coming. if they did, he would have started from the jump, but he didn't.
Yep. That feeds that hunger that Nik Bonitto certainly has.
Happy accident is how you describe that. But that happens sometimes in football, that you end up learning that player is more than even you thought he was going to be. But make no mistake, Nik Bonitto, this leap, this was not something that the Broncos planned on. I mean, don't get caught up in if you hear anything like, "Oh, we knew it was coming." Oh, poppycock, you knew it was coming. If you knew it was coming, you would have started him in week 1.
Right. But they're glad that he's here and he's doing it, and then he should be kept around for a long time. Let's get to inside linebacker, and I think we both have the same grade. Yeah, B. Inside linebackers and Cody Barton. Of course, losing Alex Singleton. We love our dear friend Alex Singleton. He's fantastic, but having Barton come in, doing his thing, and then really for me, Justin Sternad, from a guy that honestly I didn't want him playing defense at all because it wasn't great, and it'd been years since he'd played on defense. He's a fine special teams player, but Sternad has been really good at the inside linebacker position. Still some question marks or whatever. He's not perfect there, but his growth and his development has been something of remark there as well. And Cody Barton's rock solid. I think we kind of maybe expected this, and it's like, okay, he's doing what we expected. This is the Cody Barton that we knew.
Yeah, the thing with Sternad, this is one where you give credit for to the coaches, and you can give credit to the coaches for coaching him, Nik Bonitto as well, back at the edge position. But I love the way that they got him involved immediately. Of course, he comes in against the Jets for his first start on defense in nearly 3 years. And right away, they call him on a blitz. They call his number, and he gets Aaron Rodgers down back. And this was back when Aaron Rodgers was thought to be putting things together. It looks good. Jets are going to go on a run here. I mean, it seems like ancient history. And yet that was, just a little over 2 months ago that they were in that moment. And getting him involved like that early, I thought really it was wise. I mean, you didn't, don't wait to call his number. Just do it right away and get him into the flow of things and see what he can handle. His improvement as a run defender has been terrific. I think with Sternad, you still would like to see him miss fewer tackles, and that's something that unfortunately it's you get those reminders. Okay, this is sort of why you were kind of waiting on him. He even had a missed tackle on Monday night. So it's been a good season for him, even though it shows that he's a guy that maybe still has some limitations, but is more than just a special teamer. And it might be an interesting conversation that you have going into the offseason, of course, because you've got you do have Alex Singleton coming back next year, but do you bring back Justin Sternad based on what you've seen from him on defense in addition to what he brings on special teams? And Cody Barton, when we watched him in preseason, he came close to making plays on the ball.
The clap.
Yeah, like the clap. Oh, man, I just missed it. Well, we're seeing those just missed become big plays.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you put in all that work. That's why you practice hard every day is to gain that split second that turns the just missed into something explosive on the defensive side. And when you have some moments where you're going to give up yards, you got to make up for that with takeaways. And Cody Barton has done that. I mean, B is not a bad grade here at all.
No. What would we normally grade ILB for this team? Wouldn't be B.
Yeah.
In years past.
Probably would have been B last year, the Singleton Jewel combination.
It'd been B on a curve.
Well, it would have been B on. Actually, the unit grade would have been lower because the depth was questionable, and we saw in Miami, for example, what life without Josie Jewell looked like. And that's a big reason why Drew Sanders is now working as a backup edge rather than a backup inside linebacker, and a big reason why they decided they had to go get Cody Barton in free agency then to play opposite or next to Alex Singleton. They would have liked Drew Sanders to develop as an inside linebacker, but last year when he got the shot, not great, Bob, as you'd say. Not great.
Yes. Cornerback, though, simply fantastic on this team. And I'm not going to ask you about the minus. A minus. Corners have been outstanding, of course, led by Pat Surtain. Jaquan McMillan has had some struggles this year, but you love his resiliency. Like, you love that pick six and the revelation that he wasn't yet down. There's been no whistle blown. Of course, Riley Moss, when healthy, is simply fantastic. So, yeah, A's abound for the cornerback position.
You want to know a little interesting stat in terms of passer rating allowed by the cornerbacks this year? Jaquan McMillan slightly better than Riley Moss. Passer rating when targeted is 90.8 for opposing quarterbacks going at McMillan, and 91.3 when going at Riley Moss. I know you're not going to ask about it. The minus is the depth. Okay. And beyond the top three, Levi Wallace, when he got the extended work on Monday night, that was less than good. He should have had the big play to Jerry Jeudy should have had some help coming over, but Broncos kind of sold out with the blitz. You were compromised in terms of resources back there, but it's a unit grade. It's not, and the unit doesn't just include the starters. That's why you got to go with a minus, because right now, as we speak, there is a specific concern, and if Levi Wallace is back out there against Indianapolis, that the Colts are going to try to go at him. Although I would expect, because we saw Chris Abrams-Drain come in for the last dozen or so plays on Monday night, that we'll see Chris Abrams-Drain out there getting some more run while Riley Moss recovers from that MCL injury.
And Chris Abrams-Drain could be the teacher's pet. So we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Let's wrap up this defensive bye-week grades here on a Friday. OBT, BFD. Safety grades, B+, A-. Yeah, man, we're right there. We're pretty close to where we're at with the safety position. And Kareem Jackson, they are better than last year. So that's always been an interesting and fun conversation to have as well.
Yeah, again, if I say why is it A- rather than A, it's the concerns about the depth. Devin Key did struggle against Baltimore when he was out there, but the top two doing very well. Now, Brandon Jones ended the game with a groin injury on Monday night, so that's going to be something to watch when the Broncos come back from their bye week. Hopefully he's able to get some rest and get back out there. But that's probably an area that you ought to be concerned about coming out of the bye. I mean, the Broncos, they're feeling pretty good today, but nothing is guaranteed. However, with these two, first of all, to go back to something we talked about at the top of the show, having to have targeted free agent pickups. Brandon Jones is here because he offers really good run support. Last year, the Broncos' run defense at times was catastrophically bad. So you bring someone like Jones in who can provide some thump in the box, who can read screenplays and diagnose them really well from a distance and make plays on them. He had a specific value to what the Broncos wanted to do defensively. Sean Payton dropped a mention to Jim Leonard a couple of weeks back. Of course, Jim Leonard, the pass game coordinator on the defensive side, he works with the safeties. He's coached these guys up tremendously well to where PJ Locke is having the best season of his career and looks very much in the tradition of Broncos safeties. And Brandon Jones is having the best season of his career as well. And make no mistake, that is part of the equation at safety, is the quality of coaching they get. that they're getting. Respectfully to Christian Parker with the defensive backs last year, but Jim Leonard is somebody that he's very clearly on the rise, extremely accomplished on the college level as a defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. Had the top defense in all of college football a few years back. And if Vance Joseph gets plucked for a head coaching job, certainly you expect Jim Leonard to get the call as defensive coordinator, somebody who Sean Payton wanted on his initial staff to begin with when he came to Denver.
Defense looking up and smiles abound here on the bye week for the Denver Broncos. Of course, we're 7-day-a-week Broncos show, except for this week because it's a bye. So we're going to enjoy a little bit of time away. So enjoy everyone your Saturday and Sunday. We'll probably have some clips out there for them. Mace, I'll throw it in the old AI machine and get some clips out there for our people. And they can always check us out on social networking too. Let
the AI do the work. Let the AI do the heavy lifting while we sit back and chill and enjoy the respite. And I hope the Broncos do the same, because with so much to play for, they got to come back on point for this defense. A pretty good test coming up. A young quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who did show late in New England that he can rise to the occasions. When that drive, that 19-play drive, that with fourth down conversions, and him making high-level plays both with his legs and with his arm on that series. That showed what his apex can be and why the Colts liked him so much. And they're going to ground and pound with Jonathan Taylor, so it's going to be a test for the run defense, a test for another test for the defensive line and the guys up front. I don't think it's hyperbole to say, Cease, this is the Broncos' biggest game since Super Bowl 50, as it's one that can come very close to putting him in the playoffs, or if the Colts come in and beat the Broncos, it's one that completely upends the postseason race, because the Colts, after this game, Cease, they have a pretty easy run into the finish. This is a must win, and like I said, the biggest game since Super Bowl 50 for the Denver Broncos.
And for the whole "they haven't played anybody" crowd, you're about to play 4 games of playing somebody.
So you're playing 4 teams. You're playing the Colts, who are right behind you in the playoff race. The Chargers are going to be in the postseason. The Bengals, even though don't count them out just yet. And if the Broncos lose 1 or 2 of the next couple of games, they give the Bengals a window. And then, of course, Kansas City, you hope that they've clinched their seed, but what if they haven't? That being said, you did beat the Chiefs at home last year. The Broncos need 2 wins, with one of them being over the Colts and a Miami loss. And then there's nothing anyone else can do. They'll be in the postseason. So they're in good shape, but this is going to be a test down the stretch here. Let's see what these guys have got, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do the YouTube thing, because how can people help us out on YouTube, Mace?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never
miss
vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey, saying OBT's BFD. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.